Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can Fly. Woo-wee! Okay, so before I get into this video, I want to thank you all for the positive responses, the comments, the support. It has been absolutely amazing. And I definitely thank all the subscribers who have subscribed to this channel. And I want to thank all the subscribers who've been following me on this journey from the beginning when I did that first really terrible video about how I discovered aviation till now. It's definitely been greatly appreciated, especially given the fact that, you know, that whole situation went down. Now, before I get into some of the questions, and I thank you all, especially One Dog Geek, for your specific questions. They have been very helpful in helping me think about making this second video to my emergency landing video. So before I get into the specific questions of, okay, so what happened? Let me give you a little bit of context about this video particularly, and I think it'll be informative. So before I get into the flight path and things of that nature, let me provide you a little context for this particular video. And I have to admit, I think this is going to be important because it'll definitely provide, okay, so where we are now and what probably did or could have happened. And it'll give some weight to the theories that I've received after having conversations with several people who know about that aircraft, have flown it in the past, and know about things like Lycoming engines and things of that nature. But before I get ahead of myself, let me provide some context for the video. Now, believe it or not, that video was actually, and here I say before Thanksgiving, it was actually December 14th. Why so long between the flight and you actually posting? Two things. One, it was a traumatic experience, and it took me a while to put that particular experience into its proper context. And I wanted to be able to have some space and time between when the actual event happened and me posting the video. I wanted to be able to think about it, and I wanted to be careful about if there were any legal ramifications or anything of that nature. And so I just wanted to give enough space and time. So again, that video, even though it wasn't posted until last week, I basically took that flight and that footage was created sometime before Thanksgiving. And so that you understand where we are with the aircraft is, since that flight, as of the filming of this video, which is, what is this? Monday, February 14th, that plane is still offline. It has not been back in service since November. So that was the first reason why I did not want to post the video too quickly. I wanted to just give some space and time. But the other thing that I was blessed with in not posting the video too hastily is I was able to have subsequent conversations with folks about that particular aircraft, and from people who had flown it, and from some other people who know about 152s and the type of Lycoming engines that they have in them and some of the issues. So I just wanted to give you that proper context because it, you know, people may think, well, this is something that happened last week when I flew, and that's not necessarily the case. That flight was before November. So I just want to provide the proper context for that video because, you know, yes, it was, you know, definitely traumatizing. And, you know, my video production and posting schedule can vary based on the subject matter of a video and basically just when the spirit moves me to, you know, to post a particular video. Sometimes things are all out of sequence, just because I find a video may be more important, or just because I felt led to share that particular experience at that time. And so my emergency landing video took some time for me to get my own mind right and to figure out the best way to present that material. I did not put the actual flight path in the last video just because it was getting so long. So here's what it looks like on the sectional. Now, as you can see, the flight path actually goes past the New York sectional. So I'll have to take you to ForeFlight so you can actually see where it went to. So you can see where St. Mary's Municipal Airport, Oscar Yankee Mike, is in relation to Doylestown, and where I decided to actually make the turn so that I wasn't gonna land in the mountains and in the trees, and then go into and land at Penn Valley Airport, Sierra Echo Golf. And so let's do that. So of course, because of my lack of editing skills, I couldn't figure out how to actually do this without voicing over. So as you can see here, this is the entire path on ForeFlight, and I should have had the camera closer, but I'm zooming in to Doylestown, and I'm just going to take you along the path. So there's the starting point there at Doylestown, and as we're going northwest, you'll see a few familiar airports. Quakertown is a waypoint that I looked for as part of my flight path. You will now see Kutztown, which is also another waypoint that I was using. And then you see, what is that? Schuylkill County. And you just keep going north and west. Now there's Penn Valley, which is interesting, and that's where I passed it. But again, I'm going all the way to the destination. And so, and you can see there's some error segments. That's why that screen changes color. But then you finally get to St. Mary's Municipal, Oscar Yankee Mike. So that was the planned path on ForeFlight. But now I'm showing you, this is where I began to have some issues. And if you look at the map, there's not a lot around there. So as I zoom back out, I want to show you, okay, so from St. Mary's back to Penn Valley or Selinsgrove, Sierra Echo Golf, I'm going to add this into the flight plan as if I'm flying from St. Mary's back to Selinsgrove. So see that blue line? That's the distance between St. Mary's and Selinsgrove Airport. But what's interesting is, as I zoom back in, I'm going to point to, see that area that I'm pointing to right there? That's where I started having some engine issues, and it just wasn't sounding right. And again, in that area, my concern was I didn't have a whole lot of options. I could have landed there. I did not see that airport. I've never been there before. And again, I was worried about the engine quitting. The last thing I wanted to be doing was searching for an airport rather than going to an airport that I know I had passed. Also, again, as I take that blue line back to Selinsgrove, the elevation is dropping. So theoretically, right where I turn there, I'm at about 2,200 feet elevation there. As I'm going down to Selinsgrove, the elevation is dropping, and so I'm not necessarily gaining altitude, but I'm getting some space between the airplane and the ground. So you can see I'm kind of like, you know, bouncing around and looking, but that is Penn Valley Airport. That's where I landed. And again, as you can see, the elevation there is about 939. I don't know why I keep hitting hitting these buttons, but at any rate, that's the deal. So Loganton is probably the best place, and see 2330. That's the elevation there. I was at 5,000 but declining, and so going from there back to Selinsgrove made the most sense. And again, I did not see that airport to the further north and west. but I had seen Sellers Grove, so that's why I decided to go there. Hopefully showing you on ForeFlight in the section of my flight path and where I turned, the reason why this played out the way it did, in a visual way, so that you could see what I was looking at and what I understood my options to be. Okay, so once I landed, again, I really want to thank all of the folks at Penn Valley Airport. They were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they really made me feel comfortable about the situation, and definitely hats off to Leading Edge Aviation for really taking care of me, for the CFI that came, really put me at ease, made me feel comfortable with my decision making, because again, I was so discombobulated, was definitely just happy to be on the ground, on a field, airplane intact, me intact, but still, once the once the emergency had been avoided, or the perceived emergency, or whatever the case may be, I definitely was feeling psychological distress, to a certain extent, because now the second guessing and all this kind of stuff, and again, because and of course, because of all the adrenaline, there was definitely a lot going on there. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for being so amazing to me. It really, it really helped a lot. And of course, once the adrenaline was, flowing through my blood, or stopped, the shakes, the anti-adrenaline shakes or whatever. So definitely thank you for that. So, and the conversations that I had with both FSDOs, both Allentown and Harrisburg, I mean, those folks were consummate professionals, and that felt really good. All right, so all of that in the backdrop, what did the FSDOs ask me? So Harrisburg, I think, was the, was the most significant of the two conversations. They definitely asked me about, where I took off from, what was my plan, where was I going. The one thing that they asked me that I thought was interesting is they asked me if I had filed a VFR flight plan. I did not. However, one of the things that I do know going forward is, since it's basically just a button push in ForeFlight, why not, right? Part of situational awareness and, planning, all that kind of stuff. And besides, I want to start working on my instrument. Got to file a flight plan anyway. Might as well get into practice of doing that now. So that's something that I'm going to be adding to my repertoire. And so I did not, so I told them I did not do that. Then they asked me some questions again about, when did I listen to the ATIS? Had I picked up any weather from St. Mary's? I told them I had tried, but I was too far out. And then they asked me, questions about controlling and what did I experience. And just like I said in the video, I talked about the decrease in engine performance, or the sound of decrease in engine performance. And then I also talked about the possibility it may have been carburetor ice, so going mixture full ridge, pulling carburetor heat, all of this stuff that I said in the last video. They were very professional. The questions were succinct, but it was clear that they got what they needed. Everything seemed to be fine. So there's that issue. So what happened? Well, here's the thing. So the reason why I basically told you about the context of the video is so that you can understand. At the time, it could have been a combination of some things, but the fact that, out of safety, and I definitely applied Leading Edge for that, that plane has not been put back into service since since that flight, really. And so a few things that I've heard about Lycoming engines, and especially ones that, you know, are being flown fairly regularly, is that you will get things with, you know, cylinders and, you know, cylinder pressures. You also get issues, and I've heard these issues about exhaust gases not being able to come out as well, and that having to do with the cams and stuff like that. And that's something that particularly Lycoming engines apparently have. I don't know. I mean, I'm, you know, low time pilot, so I know what the engines look like. I know how they operate, and I know the 4 stages, you know, and that kind of stuff. But I don't know much about, like, you know, how long the cams last and all of that kind of stuff. But again, one of the things that, you know, having had those conversations with people about engines, Lycomings, and engine performance, the thing that people described as this cam issue and exhaust gases not being out and there being a performance issue, it reminded me of a situation one time where I was trying to use my leaf blower. The engine wasn't warm yet, and I kept trying to go full power, and it would do this like, oh. And, you know, I know that's a really weird, but it was that same kind of thing, almost like, yeah, like there wasn't enough air, and just, you know, and again, it wasn't this wild swing of the RPM, but it was definitely an engine performance, like, you know, air, fuel mixture, you know, or something that was changing. And so there's definitely this feeling that something was going on. Now, it could have been a combination of things. And have I asked directly? No, I haven't. Why? I don't know. I'm a wimp. I don't know. I could probably go look at the, you know, the logs or whatever. But, you know, suffice it to say, from my humble perspective, you know, I think it was definitely something a little bit more, or a combination of matters. Because, you know, like I said, in talking to other people, from what I've described to them, it sounds like it was one of those things where it was a cylinder pressure, you know, or a cam issue. And it could have been that in combination with, you know, I'm flying at altitude, and, you know, it is cold, so possibility that there was some carb ice as well, although that wasn't the primary issue. Okay, so in terms of what my wife thinks about this whole situation, it's interesting. When I told her about it, I think her first thought was, well, you're here and you are fine. And so since you're here and you're fine, I'm good. And so I think her initial reaction was, well, you're here. Everything is good. I didn't have to get a phone call. I didn't have to come pick you up from the hospital. You're here. You're all good. I think too, because I did at the time downplay it. And, you know, please don't judge me, but I just didn't want my wife to be worried, because I knew, even though I was scared to death because of this whole situation, I'm gonna fly again. I mean, that there was just no question that this is something that I was going to continue to do. And the fact that my training worked, I'm not cocky about it, but I do know that now, if this were to happen again, or the engine quits, I know that, you know, I am cognizant enough, or I'm trained enough to at least know what to do to figure it out, fly the plane and get it on the ground. And as one of my mentors would say, get on the ground and hit nothing hard, so including the ground. So she really wasn't too concerned about it, and, you know, really was, you know, I mean, as you can see later on, she got in the plane with me, because that flight with her flying with me, and I'll put that flight up there just in case you haven't seen it, came after, you know, this experience. And in fact, I felt empowered to make that flight with her after, this experience. So she was good with it. You know, we did have a long conversation about it. She was aware, you know, that this had happened. I explained to her all of the things that happened, and yeah, she was good. So Mrs. Swan was good, and she subsequently flew with me, so that was all good. The other question I got was, did I talk to my CFI about the situation? And in fact, I did. I talked to my CFI actually pretty immediately after that, but then I talked to him again, you know, some months later after I had time to process. One of the things I wanted to do was have a conversation with him before I posted that emergency landing video. And so because of that, once I had that conversation with him, and you know, he basically said, yeah, no, it sounds like you did exactly as you were trained to do. Everything seemed to be in order. That made me feel more comfortable to go ahead and post the video. So yeah, I did have a conversation with him, and I told him, look, man, your training was impeccable, because you know, I knew what to do and I executed, and I was able to get the plane on the ground safely and soundly. So he felt good. But that wasn't the only CFI I talked to. One of the things that I didn't say in the previous video is that when they came to pick me up in the twin, 3 people came with them. Of course, the pilot, a mechanic, and then a CFI also came. And in real time, I explained to him before I had talked to the first FSDO what had happened. And you know, God bless him, dude is awesome. I mean, he really kind of helped talk me down and said, you know, good job, you did a really good job. And so, you know, that was the first indication that, okay, you know, I'm not a boob. I shouldn't hand him my pilot's license or put it in the shredder or anything like that. But yeah, I've talked to 2 CFIs, that one the day it happened, and then subsequently my CFI. It was a good conversation, and they were both very supportive. And so that's pretty much it. You know, that's, all I can think of. If there are any other questions, definitely leave them down in the comments. It was definitely an experience. I will tell every student pilot who is listening to me, practice your emergency procedures constantly. That landing, if the engine goes out, is going to be the most important landing you will ever do. And so the emergency procedures should be like a reflex to you. It should be something that happens automatically, like breathing. Engine goes out, it should be automatic. You shouldn't even have to think about it. A, B, C, D, E. Airspeed, best glide, airspeed, best landing, checklist, all of those emergency procedures, and, troubleshoot, all of that good stuff. That should be, automatic and at your fingertips. So definitely practice that stuff. Also, as you're flying, I definitely recommend always just saying to yourself, if the engine goes out, where would I put this thing down? And, be thinking about that, because it is always a real possibility. And I will say that the training that we're getting from these flight instructors who are really serious about this, it's good. I mean, the training really does work. It is up to you as a student to make sure that you are, practicing, by chair flying, by going through these different checklists and all of that kind of stuff. So that's important to do. And so that's really all I can think of. It was very, very scary. It was a very scary and very trying experience. But it is one that I'm glad that I had. I'm glad that I was challenged to have to make that decision, and conduct myself as though the engine was going to quit at any point. Again, I don't know if any or all 3 of those factors, were part of what I was hearing. The bottom line is, for me, I was in an environment where normal operation was not happening. And rather than speculate about whether or not this was an issue, given the terrain and my landing options and what I perceived this situation to be, I made what I thought was the most sound decision to find an airport and put the plane on the ground. If I had to do it all again, I would probably do the exact same thing. So again, I know this is not as exciting as flying, but I definitely wanted to follow up since I'd gotten some questions, and again, I'm not specifically sure, but I am pretty sure that, given the fact that that plane is offline, that, once it is back online, it will be safe and I will be back in it. And so that's the bottom line for me. So I thank you all. Thank you, Selinsgrove Airport. Thank you, Leading Edge Aviation. Thank you to both the Allentown and Harrisburg FSDOs for, helping a brother out and not making this any more traumatic, and really making me feel that, we're all in this together. Nobody's in here to do gotchas or make people feel bad, and to destroy anybody's sense of self-worth. But we're all in this to enjoy this thing we call aviation, and to do it in a way that's fun but safe for those who fly and those who watch us do the same. All right, so thank you very much. I thank you for all the support and love. If there's additional questions, please don't hesitate. And I thank you all. Russ Kid, Russ Can Fly, I'm out. Peace.